to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. The immediately IEBC team was sworn into office. Preparations for 2027 elections ought to have started immediately. And in this podcast, for the first time, this is my first podcast after IEBC was formed, I want to talk to one gentleman and allow me to call him Chebukati's successor. That is Dr. Erastus Edung Ekethong, the chairman of IEBC. It is good we have a commission. We've delayed forming this for quite some time, and intentionally, someone made it to delay because someone did not want the by-elections to happen. So I want to talk to this man, Erastus Ekethong. You are going to preside over one of the most critical elections since multi-party democracy. And I want to tell you why. You are taking over a body that for the last 20 years or so, I think let's say 20 years since 2007, it has been riddled with claims of vote rigging and manipulation by the political class. That has been the norm. So while some analysts are saying that your work is well cut out, I need to challenge you to tell you that your work is very difficult. And because you don't know what really awaits you ahead. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and thank you very much for subscribing. Subscription is absolutely free. When you subscribe to our channel, when we publish a video, you'll be getting notifications. So kindly make sure you subscribe. Let me say, the roadside proclamations by leaders allied to the president coming out publicly saying and amplifying their voices on their vote rigging scheme cannot be taken lightly. Because these people talking are not just just making mere political statements. Election is coming in the next 2 years. And now, the IEBC that has been formed must be wary that why is it that immediately the body is formed, the state which is supposed to help it regain its credibility is working tirelessly behind the scene to make sure that it soils the reputation of that body. We must also remind Ekethong that the country knows very well that that body has been formed. The bipartisan talks and the NADCO report are just documents to justify fairness. But it was him becoming the chairman of the IEBC is a sole decision by the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Arap Ruto. That we can't change. Me kwanza wezi ni convince. Huyo wezi ni convince. And even you to take 10 people waulize, Ekethong amechaguliwa na nani? They will tell me it is William Ruto. And we must also know that he's part of any plan that Ruto has. Now, after having said that, I want us to say this. At this point, they must show Kenyans confidence and trust so that whichever results they will give the country in 2027, it is their results that hold the future of the country. Yes. And that result must show the will of the people. Anything short of that threshold is going to give us a bad news. And I'm not a prophet of doom. I'm just saying, speaking from last experience. Muturi has raised an alarm about some fella here, Jose Carmago.
But that is
What did you hear?
It's a credible rumor that I have.
That?
You saw even, I think, who is it? Kalonzo Musyoka spoke about it. Yeah? That Jose Carmago has been around. We don't know, now these are the kind of people who would want to really distance ourselves from. In fact, the center of power should avoid interacting with such people. Because they just create they just create that anxiety and then spoil the mood for a free and fair election. And in fact, they will make the work of the IEBC very difficult.
Okay, so he was accused of interfering with the election transmission. Do you think that was the agenda as well when he came, if he actually came?
No, let me not hazard a guess, but since that's what he has been known to do, because he's been mentioned in some other countries also, yeah, not just in Kenya. Since that is what he is always accused of, even in those other jurisdictions, I think in Kenya this is a guy we should never set foot here.
Okay, and you say he left.
No matter his expertise, I'm sure it is not unique.
Okay, and you said he left on Sunday, this Sunday, or which Sunday?
Yeah, last Sunday.
Today is Sunday, so a week ago.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I saw this story when I was in Mbere, it was in Embu. Yes, let me say, true, not true, seen, not seen, the people have heard. Muturi was speaking in a radio station, Hot 96. The information is out there. When people hear Jose Carmago, people see vote rigging. People see scheme skits. People see signatures. People see Form 34C that do not have, some of the signs that were supposed to. People see what didn't go well in 2022. Chebukati's ghosts should not resurrect on Ekethon. They should not. And by the way, we are lending trust in this podcast. I will lend my little trust on that commission until they hold the by-elections. I understand there are some state players who don't want any by-election to happen. But Ekethon should know that the by-elections is what is going to show us, is part of scheme, is the platform, is the opportunity to show the country that you can be fair. There are by-elections that we are really paying attention to. Magarini, Siaya, that is Kopionda. We have one in Mount Kenya here. We have another one, I think, Banisa. We have a couple. We have some for the MCAs. There are some that might be triggered by people resigning from their positions just to seek fresh mandates. Remember, you must use the by-election to win back our trust. And you must respond to everything. I remember after this Wajir women rep made this reckless statement about vote rigging, and the state really were caught off guard. They did another poster that was showing that IEBC has registered 3.5 million voters. And so quick, the commission was quick to go and flag it as fake news. I think that was right, because those who brought up that story were just doing it to create fear and show they had an intention of saying that 3.5 million votes from Northeastern is to run the tyranny of numbers, that, even if Mount Kenya is revolting, we are getting votes from Northeastern. Someone wanted that. Some temporary excitement. But they must be on top of their game, because the state players are hell-bent to ensure that that commission does not hold by election, and that commission is under their paycheck. There are serious activities The boundaries delimitation can be hijacked by the political opportunists so that they manufacture new constituencies and part of the rigging scheme. New constituencies, I'm told new counties. I've seen the Rigathi Gachagua making some arithmetic. There is an arithmetic on how the president doesn't have the numbers, and I agree with him. If you look at the tribal arithmetics that the voting patterns are, the president, I cannot seem to see where the president can even get 4 million votes. He has some paltry 3.5 somewhere, lying somewhere. I'm seeing 3.5. Kinitafuta polepole nitakwambia where I'm seeing those 3.5. I'm not seeing him getting 5 million. I'm not seeing. Voting ends in the polling station, true. Yes, voting ends in the polling station, true. But we have an history of our elections here. Rigging can be done. Don't say that voting ends in the polling station so it cannot be done. In fact, 2022 general election could be rigged without Rigathi knowing. Or Ruto could still have rigged 2022 election without anyone except himself, probably and his close family knowing. To date, no one knows how those two Indians disappeared. And even after Ruto became the president, not so much was done on the same. So I hold my position here. The commission do not have the luxury of time. I like what my first boss, TJ, Tom Japan, told us. We don't want mediocrity. And in this country, 2027 election, we don't want mediocrity. If you do something mediocre, the country will behave mediocre. Because we are very fragile, and the country is really holding into... Remember, the protests were happening, and the president said it is anarchists, and then people were told, guys, hold on, can you just wait for the ballot and do the right thing at the ballot? For the first time, we have a voting population known as the Gen Z. No one knows their voting pattern, but they have the potential of, disorganizing the career politicians that do their calculations using the tribal arithmetic. They have the potential of disorganizing that arithmetic. Ladies and gentlemen, why Ekethong must be careful with the pronouncements of vote rigging. And in fact, the question you should always be asking here is, why is the state moving towards making sure we don't have the trust of the people? And I want us to look at this keenly. Number one, IEBC is riddled with serious tender fights and infiltration. Do you remember in February 2022, when Raila Odinga was claiming that late Chebukati and Wetangula are the ones who knew the person who was supplying ballot papers? And in fact, rigging of elections happens at the printing of ballot papers. If someone is even supposed to do ballot stuffing, the ballot stuffing that is done must only be done, see, it is zinaenda kutengenezwa kwa corridor mahali. They will have the same specifications na zile zenye zimepigwa legitimately. These tender fights, who get these tenders? Who is given? And a tender fight is where also foreign infiltration comes in. And this tender fight starts from Kim's kit, ballot papers, voting machines. Yeah, there's so many things. Even the ICT infrastructure. The discussions about the server. Even the discussions about the server. Those things, those huge tenders are the ones why you can see the state is deep in it. In fact, I am asking Ekethong something I know he will not manage. but we are lending trust. This podcast will lend trust to that commission that you guys, we want you to do the good job. As in, we really just want you to do the good job. In this podcast, I'm going to lend my trust. We're going to lend our trust. Waiting. But when you get it wrong, we say this is not this way. But when you get it right, we'll also say that is right. We are going to look at voter registration. There are forces who want to suppress young people from registering. We want to see how you're going to manage your campaigns on encouraging young people. Remember, the register now is not going to target old folks. Old folks are already registered. The register is going to target the young Gen Zs and the first-time voters. Those are the folks that are going to be campaign messaging on registration is going to target. We are waiting for your first poster on that. We are waiting for how you're going to do the by-elections that are coming. You know, there are people who must make sure they get the seats back. We are looking at Mbere. Number 2. In this country, IEBC has been the biggest flop in terms of the ICT infrastructure to be used. 2017, it worked until somewhere in around 10 p.m. Then the whole thing disappeared. Then Uhuru maintained a gap of 800,000 votes between Uhuru and Raila Odinga. Same to 2022, it didn't work. Chebukati gave very funny explanations. Remember, even a day to the general election, we could not conduct gubernatorial elections in Kakamega and Mombasa. The discussion about ICT infrastructure, and let me tell you, deliberately, the Pons body drags procurement of that infrastructure to tail end of an election under the guise of tukileta mapema watu wataiharibu, watu watainfiltrate. So there is always, and yeah, it is actually unwritten law. Election materials arrives in this country very late. Why? Because zikifuka mapema, some politician will can even plan on how that warehouse can be banned. Someone will even plan on how we can now, hack that system. But and that's why we said we need goodwill. So na IEBC walete hizo vitu mapema, wa test mapema, tukue sure. Number 3. Strenuous legal battles. Hey jamani, 2022, 3 days to the election, do you know there was a high court judge sitting in Milimani deciding as to whether we are doing manual or digital or electronic. I remember that. Just a simple decision in terms of kama mtu amekuja kwa polling station na jina yake haiko hapo kwa hiyo electronic, anaweza kubaliwa kuandika na ako kwa register lakini hayuko kwa hiyo ako kwa the manual register lakini hayuko hapo kwa hiyo the electronic register, electronic list. Can he be allowed a vote alafu jina yake andikwe hapo? Just that decision. Do you know it took us months? 3 days, in fact 2 days to election is when that decision. A high court judge was sitting in Milimani to make such a decision, to give an order. Up to last time, we're even thinking which is spoiled vote and rejected vote. Lastly, we have deep-seated political interests, oligarchs, who can only survive by making sure that they get their way in the commission. People who, even if they lose elections, and we want to warn Ekethong, don't revive Chebukati's ghost of a superpower chairman. Always go consensus. A superpower chairman who is, I know it. We have deep-seated interest. We pray that God will give you the guidance to shelve and thread out the political interests that creep in the commission so that they can cripple elections and subvert the will of the people. Asanteni watu.